20 seconds, guys.
A live stream or a watch party?
So when the live stream comes on, hit share and it should come up with like start a watch party.
Sorry, the content just...
Good morning, everyone. My name is Hillary King, and we're coming to you live from Boston, Massachusetts for this pre-show leading up to MassCann's first ever virtual Boston Freedom Rally presented by Brothers Grimm Seeds. So starting at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, we've got an incredible live lineup for you today, 8 hours of speakers, panels, advocates. We've got business leaders, OGs, and industry legends, music, art, and giveaways. So it's really going to be an incredible day. So thanks for joining us. I'd also like to shout out a big thank you to the Liberty Hotel for hosting us today in our private pop-up production studio. Thank you for having us here. For those of you that don't know the history of this building, it's pretty incredible. From the 1950s until it was closed in 1990, where we're sitting right now actually used to be the Suffolk County Jail, the Charles Street Jail it was called, and it hosted a lot of famous inmates, including the legendary Malcolm X, and a group of female suffragettes arrested for protesting their right to vote. So there's a lot of rich history in this building, and I find it very appropriate that we're here today for the Freedom Rally, an event that's all about cannabis and civil disobedience. You know, marijuana prohibition has been one of the greatest injustices of modern history, and as we see now more than ever, the effects of that injustice have rippled throughout society in so many multifaceted ways, and it really never should have been illegal in the first place. Thomas Jefferson once said, "If a law is unjust, a man is not only right to disobey it, he is obligated to do so." Now, if you're watching our show today, I probably don't need to tell you this, but nobody should be in jail for weed. Cannabis should be legalized, and all charges and records should be expunged immediately. If you or someone you know has personally been affected by cannabis-related charges, check out National Expungement Week. It kicks off today with events by volunteers all across the country to provide education, legal services, and support for criminal record expungement and sealing, re-entry services for those who have been incarcerated, and more. Speaking of which, this actually seems like a good time to give a shout out and congratulations to Sean Birdie and his team at Evergreen Farms, a local economic empowerment business that just received unanimous approval from the Boston Cannabis Board for a dispensary in Hyde Park. And Sean himself is a veteran of the war on drugs. He's a former Boston firefighter who actually spent time behind bars for growing cannabis. And he's now just achieved this incredible milestone on the path towards opening his dispensary. So I wanted to show you this because I absolutely love it. Can you see this? So Sean corrected the actual news headline that came out from when he was sentenced. So former Boston firefighter gets jail time for Maine pot farm, corrected to former Boston firefighter becomes legitimate businessman. And that's what it's all about, guys. You know, anytime someone like that gets their license, or other advocates like one of our hosts later today, Andrew Muddy from Beantown Greentown, or more recently, River Run Gardens, Ed D'Souza and Irie Lyon, you know, the true OGs. When those battles are won, it's like an angel gets its wings. You love to see it. So congratulations to everyone. Sean also posted that he's celebrating the fact that as an ex-con, now when asked what he does for a living, he gets to reply, "I sell weed," which actually I can say now too. I recently joined the award-winning team at Northeast Alternatives, a medical and adult use dispensary in Fall River, Mass. And my role is director of wholesale, so selling our products to other licensed dispensaries and companies across the state. And let me tell you, we've got some incredible products coming for you, Massachusetts, so keep an eye out. We're just living the dream over here, really. So it's a very exciting time in cannabis in Massachusetts. The community has been building momentum lately with some big wins in the current draft regulations, including an expanded medical caregiver program. We've also made great strides with the adult use delivery regulations, and we're going to hear more about that a little bit later in this pre-show. But first, our first guest, Will Luzier, who was the campaign manager for the Yes on 4 campaign. Question 4 was the ballot question that legalized adult use marijuana in Massachusetts in 2016. So let's hear from Will now about the current state of legalization.
Good morning. Before I start, I need to express my sadness on the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She was a beacon of hope in the darkness, and she will be sorely missed. Welcome to the 2020 virtual Boston Freedom Rally. As Hillary said, I'm Will Luzier. I'm an attorney, and I was the campaign manager for the Yes on 4 campaign in 2016. Thanks to the 1.8 million voters in Massachusetts who made cannabis legal. Since the campaign, I have been a consultant for license applicants. I've been asked to give an update on legalization, so as my friend Dan Adams says, let's hit it. In late 2016, the legislature put legalization on hold to change it. In July of 2017, legislation was signed and made some significant changes, including the makeup of the Cannabis Control Commission and the tax rate. In September of 2017, the Cannabis Control Commission was launched. Early in 2018, the regulations were finalized and they were amended in November 2019 and are currently being amended again. The process of obtaining a license is cumbersome and time-consuming. It is difficult to obtain a site, and there's a patchwork of municipal processes, including onerous host community agreements. Retail sites are often zoned in less than desirable locations. Also, once an application is submitted, a very discerning Cannabis Control Commission may ask multiple times for more information. Currently, 71 retail licenses and 31 cultivation sites are authorized to commence operations. So we have a lot more work to do. On the positive side, there are 123 economic empowerment designees whose applications are being given priority, but many are still looking for sites and funding. One cohort of social equity designees, whose applications will receive expedited review, has completed the training and technical assistance program, and another is starting. Also receiving expedited review are certified minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses. Home delivery and social consumption licenses have been reserved for economic empowerment and social equity applicants. The home delivery exclusivity is 3 years, and social consumption exclusivity is currently 2 years. Advocacy from interest groups incentivize the CCC to allow delivery licenses to buy at wholesale rather than from a dispensary. And the public comment period is beginning next week. So weigh in writing with your opinions on the new delivery regs. Your opinion can make a difference. Social consumption will have 12 pilot municipalities, but that program has yet to be implemented. On the national front, 11 states and the District of Columbia are fully legal, and 33 states have medical cannabis. 3 important bills are pending in Congress. The SAFE Act that would allow banking services in cannabis commerce. The SAFE Act passed the House and is awaiting action in the Senate, but its movement is doubtful with the Senate's current makeup. The States Act would allow states that choose to do so to regulate cannabis without federal intervention. The MORE Act that would deschedule cannabis on the federal level and provide for federal expungement and technical assistance. The MORE Act was queued up to be voted on next week in the House, but it has been postponed until after the election. There's still a lot of work to be done. Support for advocacy groups like the Marijuana Policy Project, NORML, and the Drug Policy Alliance is critically important. If I can be of any assistance to any of you in pursuit of your cannabis commerce, I can be reached at will@tudster.com. So that's will@tudester.com. I look forward to helping anyone who needs it. So please enjoy the rest of your day, ralliers, and remember, it's all about freedom. Back to you, Hillary.
platform. And listen, we've had unbelievable past couple of months. We've accomplished everything that we set out to accomplish. First of which is that we got the extension exclusivity check mark. We're now at 3 years plus indefinite amount of extensions if there needs to be. We got wholesale delivery. That is absolutely huge. Think about the fact that now social equity has the opportunity to control their own destiny, create generational wealth for themselves and their families, just like every other license has that ability to do so. However, listen, the fight still continues. This upcoming public comment period is extremely critical, in all honesty. There are a number of factors that we have to now focus on to get this over the finish line. Number one, it will be probably the most critical at this point is we have to write the CCC, write the commissioners, and really express the fact that social equity participants, those who are going to be involved in the wholesale delivery model, we really, really, really cannot be considered retail. The issue is that many of these towns are currently at their HCA cap when it comes to retail. If for any reason whatsoever that wholesale delivery is classified as in fact a retailer, it would be virtually impossible for any social equity participants to be able to actually acquire any of these licenses at the town level, and thus, in my opinion, rendering the program ineffective. So that is by far the number one issue that has to be addressed going forward in this public comment period.
Another issue that we want to make sure that you talk about when you write your letters is repackaging. Right now, dispensaries are allowed to repackage. What this means is they buy in bulk and they can then produce the amount of quarters, eighths, pre-rolls that they need to sell. They can actually do it in front of the customer if need be, but a lot do it behind the scenes on camera, as regulated. And now the question is, will delivery companies also be allowed to do it the same way? I'm not sure why we would be caused to do it a different way than retail. If it is due to compliance, because I know that the commissioners are concerned that compliance is hard. The reconciliation for them, they're saying, is difficult when they allow repackaging. If that is the case, we feel that it should be changed for both delivery and retail, because otherwise there's again going to be an innate advantage. Retail will then be able to create quarters, create eighths, create pre-rolls on the fly. Not only that, a lot of cultivators aren't packaging right now. Will they convert to packaging? Maybe, but maybe not, because a lot of the fully integrated retailers already don't have a lot to sell wholesale. They have about 10% of their crop left to sell as wholesale. Now, if they contract a retail deliverer, they will then be using most likely that 10% for themselves. The market could get very tight as far as what is available for us to get. And if we also have to have it packaged, why give it to us at all? It might be a fight to actually get product. So I think it definitely, if that was a change, it definitely has to be a fair change for retailers and for wholesalers. And that would be what I would say to definitely make your voice heard on what your opinion is on that, because I don't know what it is other than unfair.
To further elaborate on what Janelle was saying about the repackaging proposal that's currently floating around, I'm always in favor of allowing social equity the opportunity to control their own destiny. I believe that they should have the opportunity, I shouldn't say they, because we are part of that group, should have the opportunity to control their own destiny by packaging their own product. And let's just be honest, if repackaging sits at the cultivation level, it's nothing innately wrong with that in a 1,000-foot view. However, they are cultivators. They're going to have to purchase their actual jars. They're going to have to purchasing labels and even staff to put the product into the jars. And obviously that's going to get marked up and then passed on to the wholesale operator. I think it should be within the facility of the social equity operator. And if they feel like they would like to not have that responsibility, then they can then go and contract with a micro business or contract with a wholesale deliverer. So in summary, let's make sure we're not up against any retail caps, and let's keep our own repackaging in-house.
Thanks for listening.
All right, I guess we're having a little technical difficulty getting Rick on the screen here, so thanks for bearing with us.
Just say, we also have Beth Waterfall coming up.
Yeah, we also have Beth Waterfall coming up in a little bit.
Rick, turn
and
your video on.
I'm
thanks again to
making that
Aaron
attempt.
and Janelle as well.
There we
now
go.
that we've got a minute, I just want to say that.
We're coming to you in 10 seconds. Hillary, toss to Nick. Toss to Rick.
All right. We got Rick Nye here, guys. Rick,
All right,
great
Rick,
to have you with
go
us.
ahead, start talking.
Right on. Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday, September 19th. I'd like to say thank you to everybody for joining us today. I'd like to welcome everybody to this year's first ever, sponsored by Brothers Grimm Seed Company and Northeast Leaf, 2020's first ever virtual Boston Freedom Rally. I'd like to take a few minutes to thank Northeast Leaf, that of which today we'll have a special segment on the Boston Freedom Rally with Danny Danko and Wes Abney, who is the founder. And since 2010, Wes has been shaping Northeast or Leaf magazines into one of the most trusted and recognized cannabis publications in America. With beginning with Northwest Leaf in Washington State and expanding throughout Oregon, Alaska, Maryland, California. Now we're here in the Northeast with Danny Danko. And June 2020 marked their 10-year birthday and their anniversary. And I want to congratulate Wes for the efforts that he's put forth and the contributions to help MassCann move forward. I'd also like to take a minute to thank Danny Vinovosky, who was formerly Danny Danko of High Times. Danny has been around the cannabis industry for so many years. He's was the chief editor, writer, and photographer with Seniors Cultivation at High Times magazine for almost 20 years. Danny has personally selected many of the top 10 strains of the year since 2005 and is also creator and founder of many of the different things from the High Times Seed Bank Hall of Fame to many of the Cannabis Cups Award. He's been to probably more Cannabis Cups than anybody on the planet. Danny also has the official High Times Field Guide to Marijuana Strains in 2011, and also his new Cannabis, A Beginner's Guide to Marijuana in 2018. He's the host of the Free Weed for Danny Danko since 2011, and he now hosts Grow Bud Yourself. Danny is the senior editor at Northeast Leaf magazine, and there's so much coming ahead. I also want to let everybody know that Magical Butter is going to be doing a giveaway today. So stay tuned throughout the event. On behalf of myself, Rick Naya, the great grandfather of hybrid cannabis, I want to thank MassCann for the awards that they gave away to all of the nominees and all of the candidates who were elected. Thank you all for being so courageous throughout the years. But above all and above everything, let's thank everybody at MassCann for coming together and creating the very first virtual Boston Freedom Rally. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful day. And to all the panels that are out there, please stay tuned today. Danny's going to be having his a legend seminar with Wes this afternoon at 1:10 p.m. So until then, everybody stay tuned. Have an amazing day and right on until we see you next week. Thank you very much for sharing the love.
All right, thanks, Rick. And last but not least, let's kick it over to Beth Waterfall. I've got she's an incredible female leader in Massachusetts. And fun fact, she's the earliest and first people that I met in the Massachusetts cannabis community. So Beth is going to give us a recap of last week's New England Cannabis Convention, which happened virtually for the first time ever as well, just like
Good morning,
today.
Everybody. Thank you to MassCann and to Hillary and all our hosts today. Thanks for Hillary for getting us started. Thank you to MassCann, the volunteers, and all the sponsors today who put together today's program.
If I may
and thank you for inviting me to be a part of it.
Northeast
My name is Beth Waterfall, and 5 years ago, I didn't yet know that I had been put on this earth to help break stigma against cannabis and the people who work with and use it. So it feels fitting today to be asked to give a recap of the first MassCann online virtual conference since the first in-person MassCann convention back in Boston in 2015 was the first cannabis event I ever attended. A couple months later, I was actually working for MassCann as a writer on their weed blog, and then joined the team as director of programming for several of their biggest in-person events across New England. So earlier this year, we were getting ready to host our biggest event ever, Boston 2020 at the Heinz. It was going to be so big. And you all know how that went for our really all the conferences and events that so many of us were trying to do this year. Thanks to COVID-19. So fast forward to September 2020, and MassCann held its first virtual conference, which we called MassCann Online. So as the program curator, I was so impressed with the volume and the variety of the speaker proposals that were submitted. In some ways, having so many options to choose from makes things a little bit harder. But it was just wonderful to see so many people eager to help educate and get involved. So this year, we had 4 educational tracks. We had cannabis science and medicine, advocacy and equity had its own track, business growth, and cultivation and production, of course, for cannabis. And really across all the tracks, the sessions were selected to help attendees leave with real actions that they could take to achieve their own goals, whether that was as a business operator, an aspiring entrepreneur, somebody who works for a cannabis business, a municipal representative, a government official, and of course patients and other advocates and growers and cultivators and processors. So the cannabis industry is absolutely growing up in Massachusetts. So the programming and across New England and across the country, the programming for MassCann Online was intentionally less what is cannabis and more what can we do today to advance this industry in a responsible and compliant way and really set up some of our New England players as the leaders and the standard setters for the industry. We also wanted the programming to be relevant to today's industry, which is going through unprecedented uncertainty and growth still during the COVID-19 pandemic and election year. So I started my day one of MassCann Online attending Navigating Cannabis Compliance. And then I also popped into Danny Danko's cultivation session. Later, Matt Hawkins talked about what investors are looking for today in the COVID-19 and social distancing world and had some interesting tips for people that are trying to get funding for their businesses. Then I popped into the She Blaze, Get Your Civic Life session on with the incredible Dawson sisters, Dashita, Amani, and Ice. They gave some great ideas for action everybody can take to create change within our communities and our nation through strategic activism, particularly, of course, related to progressive cannabis legalization and regulation. Of course, business, where we're starting real businesses and, there's the same rules and needs apply, whether it's cannabis or running a restaurant or something. So of course we were talking about accounting, banking, some of those really essential business topics, and really hot topics for cannabis that are always in the news, and which present some unpleasant challenges and expenses for even the most legally operating cannabis businesses. Other timely business topics included due diligence to avoid fraud, and a look at the inevitable and imminent increase in litigation happening for cannabis businesses across the industry and across the nation. Some other hot topics that were covered over the 3 days were delivery, of course. We had a few sessions about delivery, operating a CBD business during the pandemic, cultivation, of course, several sessions about that, and extractions and laboratory issues, and some supply chain issues, because as the industry is growing, things are changing there too. On the cannabis medicine and science track, we had a lot of new faces. I was so happy to see. I think you could really see how important patient advocacy from that patient perspective is still so important, even 8 years after medical passed here in Massachusetts anyway. So many thanks especially to Sariana Nodell for her session about treating patients like patients, which anecdotally I appreciated after recently being treated like I was in line at a nightclub or something by a security guard at a medical marijuana facility. Just kind of that reminder, we are still patients, we need to be treated with compassion and be listened to. Fast forward day 3, we had another amazing patient advocacy panel with Grant Ellis and several other advocates from the Massachusetts advocacy community for patients. There was also a session about THC isomers, and then one of the sessions I was most looking forward to attending with was psychedelics. Psychedelics and Cannabis author Michelle Janikian. I was particularly excited about this one because, as Michelle says, the mushroom revolution is coming, and we're seeing all sorts of news about mushrooms and ketamine and the different ethnogens in the news. But she really talked about, how we want to avoid the pitfalls of that, 1960s free-for-all psychedelic use. And so she teaches the mushroom curious how to approach mushrooms with respect and mindfulness, and shared some tips on how to prepare for and navigate a mushroom experience. Of course, there were many more speakers and sessions that I hope everybody enjoyed. In the end, we were happy to see participation numbers in many sessions really exceed some of the other events we've all seen around. So really happy and grateful that so many people participated and engaged with the speakers. And of course, we're endlessly grateful to the speakers who generously contributed their time and knowledge to this event. There were a lot of unknowns with the first time kicking off something like this. So thanks everybody for their patience and contributions. Then of course, in addition to finding a new way to present NECANN's educational programming, we also had to put our award ceremonies online for the first time. So during NECANN Online, we live streamed the announcements of the winners of the 2020 New England Cannabis Community Awards and the first NECANN Cannabis Cup Awards, 2 things that we were really looking forward to having in person back in March. But making lemonades out of lemons. So some of the highlights of the community awards included the Harvest Cup won for the best cannabis event. Dr. Stacy Gruber, she was named the Healthcare Professional of the Year. And if you don't know Dr. Gruber, Google her and her Mind Clinic in Massachusetts. She's absolutely a cannabis science hero. Purient Bedroom Cannabis took home the award for Best Scientific Advancement. Elevate Northeast won the Champion in Diversity and Inclusion Business category, which was especially meaningful to me as one of the co-founders and the executive director of Elevate. So thank you to everybody who nominated and voted for us there. Then on the individual side, Goldie Piff, she's the owner and operator of one of the oldest Black-owned farms in Massachusetts. She took home the Champion in Diversity and Inclusion Award for an individual. So congrats, Goldie, there. And then keeping up the advocacy, recognizing the people who are really shaping the community. Rick Naya, Louis Vega, Julie Gadapi, Danielle McQueen, Bobby Nuggs, and Laura Beener were recognized as New England's Cannabis Activists of the Year for their states. And then, of course, Cannabis Control Commissioner Shalene Title most deservedly won the Lifetime Achievement Award. So I jokingly told her she could retire, but then said, no, you can't actually. So you can check out all the winners and all the nominees and categories on NECANN's Facebook page. And then just wrap up some of the highlights of the Cannabis Cup included Top THC Flower Award went to Zero Gravity's Cherry Ghostnade. Top CBD Flower Award went to Rogues Island Genetics for their Apple Farm Flower. Commonwealth Alternative Care took home top prize in THC edibles for their chocolate-covered coffee beans. And Mary Palmer won the award for Best CBD Edible with their CBD gum. I definitely want to try that. And the Healing Rose company won Best Topical Award for their Lemon Ginger CBD Salve, which I use and love. So congratulations, of course, to all the winners, and big love to all the entrants who've been working so hard to build their businesses and their products and their brands and to represent New England cannabis so well. Thank you all. So that's NECANN Online 2020 in a nutshell. I hope you all have a great day at the virtual rally here, and I hope to see you all someday at live events again safely and soon. And in the meantime, I hope you'll join Elevate Northeast and me next week at Boston Cannabis Week and National Expungement Week. Check out elevatene.org or bostoncannabisweek.com for more information to register for those events. Of course, virtual stuff we're making happen. And if you'd like to get in touch with me, check out bethwaterfall.com or at bethwaterfall on social. Thanks again for supporting NECANN, and thanks to MassCann for having me here today. I hope everybody has a great day.
All right, and we're back. Thank you, Beth. Now, I'm sad to say that we're coming up at the end of our pre-show, so I want to take a moment to acknowledge something that we must never forget. The fact that for way too long, marijuana prohibition has played a central role in enabling and facilitating many of the societal inequalities that we're struggling with right now. For decades, marijuana prohibition was enforced with a staggering racial bias. And the illegality of marijuana was used as justification to brutalize and oppress communities of color at a grossly disproportionate rate. Historically, Black people have been 4 times, and in some states up to 11 times more likely than white people to be arrested for cannabis, even though we use it at about the same rate. And those effects have rippled across generations. So these disparities in rates of arrest and incarceration for marijuana also led to extreme disparities in access to housing and education, healthcare, and jobs. These inequalities can all be traced back to a certain extent to marijuana prohibition. And it's our duty and responsibility to never forget that and to never stop fighting for equity and restorative justice. Now, I would also be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to acknowledge that yesterday we lost a guardian of liberty, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And in 2015, when asked how she would like to be remembered, she said something that really resonated with me. She said that she'd like to be remembered as someone who used whatever talent she had to do her work to the very best of her ability and to help repair tears in her society, to make things a little better through the use of whatever ability she has, to do something outside myself, because I've gotten much more satisfaction for the things that I've done for which I was not paid. This woman spent her entire life not only holding the line for civil rights, but moving the goalposts for the sake of doing the right thing, not for glory or fame, for power or for profits, but to do right by the people. My most fervent wish: may Ruth Bader Ginsburg become even more powerful in death than in life. And may this loss affect us all in a way that swings the political pendulum back, finally, towards sanity, towards democracy and justice. So vote. Vote for RBG and in her honor. And when the time comes, vote like she's looking over your shoulder. Like there's a little angel spirit RGB right there. You know, do your research and choose candidates that will do their job honorably and with integrity and in the spirit of doing the right thing, doing right by the people and for the people rather than abusing their power for the sake of control or for private gains for the few. So when you're face to face with that ballot, remember these 6 letters and ask yourself, what would she do? WWRBGD. Now, let's all take a few deep breaths, actually, and a moment of silence for those battling racial inequality, for those affected by the wildfires out west, and of course for the notorious RBG. So you can close your eyes with me if you'd like. And let's take a mindful, meditative moment to reflect and to ground, to honor those who have fought for our freedoms, those who have been imprisoned, literally or figuratively, for something as natural as skin color or a plant. And a moment to appreciate that although we can't physically be together today, we can at least unite in reverence and in gratitude. So let's take a few deep breaths together and then a moment of silence. All right, whenever you feel ready, you can open your eyes. Thank you, everyone. It's truly been an honor to be here with you today. We're going to take a short break right now to reset, and then we'll return live at 12 p.m. Eastern, where we'll kick off the first ever virtual 2020 Boston Freedom Rally presented by Brothers Grimm Seeds. We've got lots of great stuff to look forward to, as well as giveaways throughout the day. We've got the patient advocacy panel at 1:30 p.m. with Dr. Marianne McNabb. That should be a good one. There's a lot to unpack there. Stephen Mandilli and hemp farmer and veteran Sarah Stenough on the veterans panel at 2:10. Be sure to catch the industry legends at 4 o'clock, and Cannabis is Medicine with Green Nurse Sherry Tutkiss and more. So stick around. We've got giveaways happening all throughout the day, including from Advanced Nutrients, who's giving away $1,000 worth of growing supplies to be had by one lucky winner at 7:20 p.m. So tune back in at 12 o'clock Eastern. By my clock, that's about 15 minutes or so, just enough time to put some fresh water in the bong, pack that bowl, roll one up, whatever your pleasure, and get ready to tune back in on MassCann's Facebook page at noon when Colton Turner of Colton's Cure and the Colton Turner Foundation kicks things off for our virtual Freedom Rally presented by Brothers Grimm Seeds. We'll be right back.